show health-wise?
He's coming along. He's getting better. He's much closer. He's been struggling with some hamstring issues and kind of back of the knee. But he practiced last week. This week he looked better today. I think that there's an excellent chance that he'll be available for us on Saturday. I think Rayante will be available for us on Saturday, potentially. Kylie Shicks got a little work in today. I don't know that he'll be available Saturday. I think he's still a little ways away. And he needs to learn. You know, he's a freshman. He hasn't gone through a lot of camp. I think that Donovan Branch will be available to us this week. You know, he went on the trip last week, but he wasn't quite ready to go, so we held him. So we should get some bodies back. We lost a couple guys, obviously. And, you know, as I said Sunday night to you guys, I mean, your heart goes out to everyone that gets injured, but, you know, that's the personal side of it. The business side of it is you got to get going. You got to get guys ready to go out and compete. So today, Zion and Kale and Tyler split the reps over there with the offense, and, you know, they'll fill in for Taekwon. It is confirmed that it was an ACL. He will have surgery this week. Keelan had surgery on Monday morning. Yesterday morning, he was back in the building yesterday for dinner. So they put a plate in his left collarbone. I don't know what the time frame is for his return. I know that he'll work at it. I was told by our athletic trainers that the fact that they can plate that now, that he can start working his range of motion immediately, and he can get his strength back. So as soon as the bone heals, then he can play. In the past, you had to wait for the bone to heal before you could even do any of the recovery work. So because of the advances in medicine, now he can get all of his recovery work done, and when the bone is healed, he can play. So we'll just be hopeful that he can, you know, that thing heals quickly.
What's the biggest challenge as a freshman being a quarterback like Zion? I mean, there's a lot being thrown at you.
A lot, well, that's it right there. You know, let's think about his week this week. He's a true freshman. He's just been handed the keys to the car. It's his first week of class in college, so he's got to manage his school load. He's got to manage becoming the starting quarterback and the study and the commitment it takes to do that. So there's a lot of pressure on him. Fortunately, this is a kid that has been under pressure for a long time at that position, playing when he played at St. Thomas Aquinas and started as a three-year starter at one of the best high school programs in the country. He's a winner. You know, he's one of those guys that seems unfazed by circumstance. He just stays in his lane and he just does his job. He has great poise and great focus. So I think he feels that pressure, but I'm not sure that it affects him. You know, at least that's what I've seen so far.
Any way to alleviate some of that pressure? Just having other guys pick it up around him?
No, you know, I the whole pick it up around him thing, if we're not always playing at our maximum, then we're wrong. So picking it up means that we didn't have it where it was supposed to be. So I don't subscribe to that theory. That's just not something I've ever thought about. Hey, others pick it up. Well, if you have to pick it up, that means you weren't giving me everything you had to start with, and that's not how we're going to do it around here. I think there's one way that we could help him, and that would be if we just get our president to cancel school for this week and eliminate the 20-hour rule and just let him live here and get the work he needs in. I don't think that's going to happen.
Jim, now that he's had a few days to reflect on playing in the game, you've had a few days to reflect on it as well. And look at him. What do you think he should take away from the things he did? And is a player typically substantially more comfortable just having done it once now, getting back out there again?
I believe so. I believe they're more comfortable. You know, he went in a tough circumstance. You know, Taekwon got hurt early, and you know he had to go in there. He had to play without starter reps during practice. So he didn't get the repetitions during practice last week that Taekwon did. So a lot of the things that he was asked to do, he'd maybe done one time in practice. He reviewed it on film, maybe walked through it. This week he got a lot of starter reps, and he's been, you know, out there with that group in a very competitive situation, and he'll grow from that. So I think you'll see a different player this week. I think you'll see a more confident player, and he doesn't lack for confidence. Maybe confidence is the wrong word. I think a better word is a more certain player, more certain of what he's supposed to do, and he'll play, I believe, more free, and he'll make quicker decisions just because of the work that he's getting this week.
And on top of that, you guys were game planning with Taekwon as the quarterback going in, having that week of prep and putting things in that are going to suit his game. How much do you think that's going to help?
I think it didn't mean to interrupt you. It's critical. You know, everybody has a skill set that's a little bit different. And so what Nick does a great job of is he identifies what a player's skill set is, whether it's quarterback or any position, and he puts him in position to amplify what he does well and eliminate the things that maybe he struggles a little bit with. So now that we know that Zion's the starter this week, we're going to do the things that he's most comfortable doing, that he does the best, and the things that he struggled with, we'll remove them from the game plan. And, you know, even though they are similar, there are some slight differences in what he and Taekwon do. And so I think having that week of practice, like you said, will really be a help.
How about your offensive line, Jim? Jake's going to come out and talk to us after you just talk about them a little bit.
Jake's a great kid. It's a really great group to be around. You know, they're just workers. You know, they don't say much. They're a very intelligent group. I think that Coach Samus has done an amazing job, you know, with those guys. They understand the schemes. They play well together. They had, I thought, a good performance on Saturday. We ran the ball well. We protected well. You know, Jake is probably going to walk in here and tell you all the things that they could have done differently and done better, which is what you like. But they're a mature group, smart group, as I said, and I'm excited where we can go with those guys. You know, I think it's so important, especially with a young quarterback, that you're able to establish the run. You can establish the run, you can open some things up in the pass game. And we were able to establish the run, and now our pass game will come along.
You had said early on in training camp you had to hold Jake back because he wouldn't hold himself back.
Right.
Is that what he brings to this team, just an energy or a relentlessness?
Absolutely. I mean, you recognize it. He had that hamstring early, and if it was up to him, he'd have been practicing, you know, every day, and he probably would have just kind of lingered and maybe all year, and you don't want that to happen, so we had to hold him back. But then once he got back on the field, I mean, he was just full go, full speed, his energy, his enthusiasm. You see him in the locker room before games and at halftime and on the sidelines, the juice that he brings. And then you want your center to be, you know, smart. And this is a Dartmouth grad. This is an Ivy League grad who's playing center for us, who can point everything out and make all the calls and recognize fronts and recognize his coverages and gets us in the right protection and move in the right way. And that's what good centers do, is, you know, they take command of the front. And Jake does those things. I think he's assumed a leadership role very quickly. You know, with he and Christian Haynes right next to each other, you've got two very good players. They're very smart, don't make mistakes, lined up next to each other.
What your studies show you and the coaches about that pass interference call? And did you hear from other friends of yours who may be officials with their take on it?
No officials. I heard from friends, obviously. You know.
We know what they said.
Yeah, you know what they said. You know, here's my take on it. It's a judgment call. It's a tough call. You know, I don't think it was the correct call, but I understand why they made the call. You know, when a guy's in the trail position and the ball's underthrown, you know, we see that call so often. But Caleb made no contact with him. That was discernible. He did get his head around it. He almost got his hand on the ball. But you know, we really didn't even address that with the team. This is the first time I've even addressed it. I hesitated to even answer your question because that shouldn't matter to us. You know, we still have to find a way to win. We cannot use penalties as excuses. You know, so when we evaluate that play with Caleb, we don't talk about, hey, that was PI, good job. We say, how can you get yourself in a better position when you're over the top and you can break back on it? Because if we don't do that, then we're doing all of us a disservice because we're accepting mediocrity and we can't do that.
How do you evaluate the rest of the way he played, taking that play out of the equation?
He played okay. He can play a lot better. He's a very talented kid. He works really hard at it. It means a lot to him to be a good football player. There was just a couple of things that he recognized that he'll do better. I saw him apply them already today. He's the kind of kid you want to coach. He's talented and he cares, you know, and he's just going to get better and better as he plays more and more. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's a good man corner. I think he's a good zone corner. I think he's a good tackler. I think he's smart. I think he cares.
When you have to spend more time with the defense, how important is it to have a guy like Nick that's been a head coach to help out?
I'm glad you brought that up because it's so important to me. You know, he's been a head coach. He understands game management. He understands situational football. He's made decisions on the field as a head coach. And now that I'm spending a little more time with the defense, just have that level of comfort that everything's going to get taken care of on the offensive side of the ball is so important. And it's such a relief to me. And so I'm very thankful for it. And I'll tell you what, he is such an impressive, not only coach, but person. I mean, you know, he runs everything through me. There's nothing I don't know about what we're doing offensively. He's only 33. I'm going to tell you this, he's one of the best offensive minds I've been around. I've been around Walsh, Holmgren, Mariucci, Don Coryell, some good ones. And I'm not saying he's them yet, okay, but at age 33, I mean, he's got that type of, his wheels spin the same way.
We're excited to see how this team handled adversity. What have you seen this week early on the season?
Well, you know, it's interesting you ask that question because we talk a lot about handling adversity, and I thought we handled it okay. You know, I thought we came back in the third quarter and played well. My concern was not how we handled adversity. My concern Saturday was how we handled success when we jumped up 14-0. And we talk a lot about handling adversity. We talk about handling success, but we hadn't gone into detail about it. And really, to me and to us, handling adversity and handling success are handled the exact same way. Which means you focus on doing your job, you trust your training, you trust your teammates, you live in those 6 seconds where the snap is made and the tackle is made. You remain confident in yourself, you keep your poise, you keep the pedal down, you play with great effort, you hold your poise. And so we needed to talk more about that, and we have. You know, listen, we talked about adversity, let's talk about success. Let's handle success well, and let's build on it. And, you know, I don't think I did a good job of talking about handling success, you know. So we've talked about it now, we'll keep talking about it.
So when you told the quarterbacks who was going to be starting the opener, how did that conversation go with Zion about being the number 2 guy? And I'm sure you said something to the effect of you're one snap away from having to help us. How did he handle that process? Everything you were telling him.
He handled it well. He's a mature young man. You know, even though he's a true freshman, he's been under the lights. You know, at the school that he went to, you know, he's dealt with the media, right? He's dealt with being on national television games. He's been in big games. I'm sure he was disappointed, which I like because he's a competitor. But that room, as I've told you guys before, they're ultra competitive, but they're amazingly supportive of each other. And he prepared mentally the same way that he would if he were the starter. It was just that he didn't get the reps. You know, I don't think it fazed him at all that he had to run out there and play. You know, that's my sense in talking to him. He's a very stoic young man, and he was visibly upset after the game, which I haven't seen out of him, and I know it means a lot to him. And we're going to get his best this week. Oh, yes,
The defense, I know you said that you thought it worked well, having input from 4 guys. Is that something you think you're going to continue with, or is it slowly going to migrate towards your responsibility or somebody else's?
Well, it's my responsibility, and I called the defenses, but not without input between every series from those other 3 and the guys in the group. So between every series, we would get together, and not physically because I was on the phones watching the offense, and talk about what we liked and what we wanted to play the next series and what they were doing and how we could adjust, because you're always making those in-game adjustments. So just having the input from these guys, and Sariki and Kenny and Dalton and the others, was very helpful. It was very collaborative. But when it comes down to it, someone's got to make the call. I made the call. I wish I had made some different calls in situations, to be quite frank with you. You know, I put our players in some tough situations, put Caleb in a tough situation on that last touchdown, you know. But I tell you what, working with those guys has been awesome. I mean, it's been incredible. They're good football coaches, great men.
Don't you kind of assess special teams? You got some good gladiator kickers, and overall, how do you think your special teams did?
I thought that we need to field punts better. When Keelan went down, you know, some punts hitting the ground. We don't have to return them better. We have to field them. We can't give up yardage. Obviously, Noe, his kickoffs were outstanding, and his field goals were excellent. Our kick returns, now they had been a deep left team, so they were always aiming to their deep left, our deep right. And I'm not sure if the kid mishit him or if that was their plan, but when they started hitting deep middles, it screwed up our timing a little bit. We worked on it, but our focus was on their deep left kicks, so it screwed up our timing, so we have to get that fixed. I was not happy with the way we rushed PATs. To me, that's a sign of effort, and I didn't think that we rushed hard enough. I mean, we talked, and that's the defense. We talked to the defense about that. I thought we did a nice job of protecting in the punt game, and our holdups were pretty good, but there's some things we have to fix, and Doug's getting those fixed, and the players are tuned into it.
Jim, you said there's not much feel good in the loss, but outside the program, the people I talked to the last 3 days, they were impressed. They liked the push. They liked the comeback. They liked the effort. Is it okay if they feel good?
Yeah. No, and I said that yesterday. I said, no, when I came here, one of the things I said is I want the people that support this program to be proud of their team on Saturdays. And so if they were proud of their team on Saturday, that's great. But if we start accepting internally that coming close and losing is okay, then we will never get anywhere. Never. It just doesn't happen that way. That's not competitive athletics. And so we're not going to accept that in here. Man, we want people to be fired up about the direction we're headed. You know? I mean, that's critical to us. I mean, we're playing for each other, we're playing for the school, we're also playing for the people that support us. I've said it many times, we want people to come to the rent and walk out of the rent and say, man, I like the way my team's playing. You know? Yeah, we want to wear UConn basketball shirts around, but I'd like to see some UConn football shirts. You know, to talk about UConn football, but we have to win football games for that to happen. And yeah, hey, man, I hope they, I want them to feel good. I want them to feel optimistic. But internally, if we accept good enough, then we'll never become great. Never. Just doesn't happen.